Should we be training leaders to be more empathetic and compassionate?
No
So,
way.
yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about empathy on this podcast in terms of design thinking and also leadership. But there's some interesting studies that are out around this topic. Someone saying that maybe empathy is not the final step. Maybe you need to take the next step beyond empathy and to become a compassionate leader. And there's one on one of the articles, and I'll try to again. I'll post it in the show notes, and I will also hopefully provide some screenshots of some of the images I'm talking about here. But there's one graph that I think captures this idea really well, which starts off with pity, where you feel kind of sorry for somebody, but you're not really experiencing it. You're really distanced, but you have some. I guess they use the language of pity for somebody, and that's not ever good, right?
And it's
And
interesting the way that the pity. When I saw that, I've thought of pity as almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Having a sense of disdain in a weird way.
yeah, yeah, there is a connotation of that.
There is in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but yeah.
No, I think you are. I think there's definitely a connotation of disdain within the word pity. The next level up for them is sympathy, where you cognitively understand where they're coming from, but you're not necessarily experiencing what the other person is talking about. Step up from that is empathy, where you feel it. You feel the emotions that are being conveyed to you. You're able to step into the other person's shoes.
And this
But
is
you're
where
not
we begin to lose sociopaths and psychopaths is in this zone here.
according to some of our guests, yeah,
Yes.
or they can fake the empathy, right? They're going to be
Right.
dark
But it's not really
empaths
there.
who,
Yeah.
or maybe they're maybe master sympathizers, right? The dark empaths,
Right.
where they can
Yeah.
cognitively make sense of what you're conveying, but they're not really feeling it. The
Well, yeah,
true
they've been
empaths,
they're constantly collecting data to see what works and doesn't work under certain circumstances.
exactly,
But
they're
the
testing.
emotions are not really there.
Yeah, and then true empaths are feeling those emotions and stepping into your shoes and understanding your point of view. The final step is compassion, according to this framework, where not only are you feeling what the other person's feeling, you're actually taking action to address their needs.
Hmm.
Now, there's actually two articles I've read about this, and one of them makes a really good point about the dangers of empathy, in leadership, and that relying just on your feelings can be a dangerous place to be, right? So while you want to have empathy because it's going to lead you to compassion, and we'll get to the nuances of how to make a good, compassionate response to somebody's situation in a moment. But I want to linger here on the dangers of empathy for a moment that they talk about. And it's that you might not be seeing the full picture because you are just feeling what the other person's feeling. And yeah, I know in my world, I've seen many times where people have come to me and shared their feelings, and I know I'm right because this is how I feel. But that's not objective reality, and so you might not be seeing the full picture just because you're having a certain emotional experience.
Yeah, no, agreed. And then we've even gone through the notion that there are such things as dark empaths, and I think we probably all have the ability to be a dark empath at times. You can feel that you can actually kind of feel the pain, but you leverage it for Machiavelli ways. You use it against the person. So empathy is a powerful tool. It's a powerful aspect of humanity. It's what makes us it's probably the glue that holds us and our other primates together, is to be able to understand the other being's pain.
Well,
It's
yeah,
important to recognize that.
and I think in this context, we're not really talking about dark empathy. Yeah, dark empathy, we've
No,
heard
no.
many discussions about it. Dark empathy is a
Absolutely,
bad
yeah.
thing, and it can be a sociopathic, Machiavellian thing. But in this case, it is legitimate empathy. Like, so, and you have certain people who might, I'm going back to the Jonathan Haidt, research on values. You have some people who might have a higher capacity for caring, for other people, and so they're probably going to have a heightened sense of empathy.
Hmm.
And so you, like the article states, you put them in a situation where they have to make a decision, a medical decision about somebody's situation, and they hear this story about the cancer patient and their personal
Right.
story, and that's going to move them. And so they're going to make a choice to rank that person higher in a selection process for a treatment. And
I
that
found
might
that
actually,
I found that very interesting,
yeah, that might
and we
actually
all
hurt.
know it. And I've had issues. I've had arguments with people in the past. And in some respects, James Bond villains are the ones who are. Some of the James Bond villains are like, I'm going to kill 1 million people because I'm going to save 1 billion people, right? That kind of a thing.
Right.
Sometimes you have to triage in certain ways that force you to sort of be counterintuitive to your direct empathy. You have to think in a bigger picture. And I'll
Yeah.
recommend a book to people called The Hard Things About Hard Things, which is a great book about a business owner, creator, innovator who wrote about how it's just hard to be a boss and the hard decisions you have to make. And you just got to make them. And it's not, and they're kind of counter empathetic in some way. But when you step back, you realize it is sort of like pulling the Band-Aid off fast, right? Some people are, oh, that's so mean. And then others are like, no, it's great. It hurts the bad immediately, but it's over faster, So yeah, empathy can get in the way of making the right decision, right? Which
Yeah,
brings
and
us
that's
to the
to
next thing, right?
yeah, to compassion. And so they provide some recommendations, which I agree with, on how to respond compassionately. So you respond empathetically, so there's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But then you take that next step forward and go from empathy to compassion. And
Hmm.
there's some moves that they recommend that you can make, like taking that step backwards to look at the situation more objectively. Don't get sucked in. They also talk about self-care within this, and I think those two are interrelated. Like, because you sometimes have to, you can feel the experience and understand what somebody's going through, but you don't want to get sucked too far into it because that could damage you as well and
That's
also obscure
interesting
your opinion.
that you qualify those as really. And yeah, you're right, because you can almost say taking a step back is under the umbrella of self-care, right? You're
Yeah.
protecting yourself a little bit. They've just made those distinctions. And I've actually captured a couple of things because it's important for people to understand how to do the self-care. A lot of us in this busy world are just so proactive, never stop to breathe, never stop to sort of love yourself. And sorry for the hippie moment. And so a couple things to kind of think about under what self-care even means would be practice some mindfulness techniques, forms of meditation, breathing, engaging in physical activity,
Yoga.
that helps you get away from the problem. It also helps you feel better. And there's also lots of cognitive science out there that says in fact, watch one of our episodes, that moving helps you sort of recombobulate yourself.
Yeah. And
Practice
drinking. I like to move my arm, like
that was also in the
beer
book. Yep,
into my.
exactly.
Yep.
Has nothing to do with the alcohol. And self compassion. Do you even know what that even means? We're talking about compassion. Do you have it for yourself? Again, I saw this great movie years ago, and I can't remember the name of it, and I'll try to remember, where a father's talking to a depressed son, and the son asks his dad. He says, "Dad, if me and mom fell in the water, who would you say first?" Right? Kid's kind of having some existential moment, and the dad goes, "I would actually go save your mom first because it would make it more, because if I got hurt, then it would be more likely I can get you." Now, the logic doesn't really totally hold right, but the notion is that you can't help anybody unless you're helping yourself first. And that might sound selfish, but it's freaking true. Make sure you're capable to help people.
Yeah, and that's part of self-care too. Yeah, are you ready? Are you taking care of yourself enough so that you can take care of other people? So taking a step back, self-care, helping them help themselves. So not necessarily providing solutions or solving the problem for them, but almost in a coaching way. So what can you do about this situation? What are some options? Here's a menu of things.
I
And
love that. I love that one because it returns the power back to the person who is having the problem on some
yeah,
level.
you don't always need to be a savior, right?
You don't need to be the savior, and yeah, exactly. And oftentimes the person having the problem actually knows the solution to the problem. They're just not doing any of these things that we're talking about, so they can actually solve it accurately or correctly.
And I'd actually even argue that you're helping them self-actualize more by
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, no,
letting
sorry. Yeah,
them,
go ahead. Yeah, I'm just
yeah,
agreeing.
like
Yeah,
you're empowering them and helping them self-actualize more, so that the next time a situation similar to this comes up, they have actually developed those tools to be able to solve the problem themselves.
yeah,
Um, and this one I really like. This other suggestion they make is asking what they need or want. And I have found this to be very effective in conflict situations. When somebody comes to me with a complaint, and I've seen other people do this as well, taking a moment to say at the end, after they've vented and shared their situation, saying, "So what do you want from me? What can I do? What do you want? What outcomes do you want after sharing this?" And sometimes it's the outcome is I just want to vent. It doesn't need to go any further than where it's at right now. Other times they might ask for specific things to be done, and then you come to an agreement about what you're going to do to help resolve the problem, and what they're going to do to
that's
help
right.
address the situation.
Yeah, and it's important, it's not just in what you do, sometimes it's how you do it. So when people, if you're a leader or you're a coworker and you can see someone's in need and they're coming to you or slightly coming to you for help or need help and you feel like you're in a position that you should probably try to help, and you're going to leverage this thing and it's powerful. Like, what is it that you need? Because that's going to arrest them in their spot probably because they haven't really thought about it yet if they're really deep into the problem. How you ask that question is important, and make sure that you're not confrontational. If you're a leader, you might find
No, I
yourself
think you have to be
like
empathetic.
Jodah. What is it you need? And I got other things I got to do. What do you need from me now?
No,
Now
no, no, no. It has
that's
to
kind
be
of
coming from a
patriarchal.
place of compassion, right? So
That's
you're
right.
saying it like, okay, so we've talked about this.
And
What do you
also
need from
make
me?
sure you
What would you like
pay
to happen
attention
next?
when they respond.
Oh
So
yeah,
you say what they need, and you've got to make them. And that was one of the things like Obama was famous for. When he would talk to people like, and he would talk to them, and he would like listen. His eyes
yep.
wouldn't like disengage. So that's going to
Active listening
empower
is
them to
really
know they're in a
important.
safe place, even if they can't provide you what you need. You're going back to. You also know that question is actually coming from a position of compassion. So how you ask the question is important in this scenario.
And the final point they make, just to cover it, is another move you can make is also non-action, right? And that's something that we don't talk about a lot. People in leadership positions feel like they have to solve everything for everybody sometimes, but sometimes a choice is to strategically take no action, and in order to help to solve the situation and see if things can resolve themselves too. But that, again, I think those have to be intentional, thoughtful approaches, all of them, when you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with uh, people in conflict and people having emotional situations. So some thoughts on empathy and compassion in the workplace.